Welcome back to the Whispering Pages Mysteries by Penelope Graves. Let's continue the Whispering Library with Chapter 8, What Was Left Inside. Ellie did not discover it because she was clever. She discovered it because she was irritated. The shop had closed early, at Thorne's insistence, and the late afternoon light lay thin and silvery across the counter. Sam had been dispatched home with strict instructions not to do anything entrepreneurial, which he had received as a personal affront. Alone, the shop felt altered, not violated, occupied. Ellie stood behind the counter with Lumley's signed copy open before her. She had read the dedication again, then the orchard passages, then September Light twice more. The words no longer felt literary. They felt pointed. She closed the book and pressed her palm flat against the cover. It yielded slightly. Ellie frowned. Books had a certain resistance to them, a dependable firmness born of glue and stitching. This one felt faintly uneven. She picked it up and weighed it in her hand. It was a hardback, solid, but as she tilted it gently from side to side, something inside shifted with the softest whisper. Her breath stilled. She told herself not to be ridiculous. Then she bent the spine carefully. A faint ridge appeared along the inner seam, barely visible, a slight rise beneath the fabric lining. Ellie's pulse began to climb. "Thomas," she murmured under her breath. She fetched the small letter opener she kept in the drawer. Ivory-handled, blunt enough not to destroy paper unless one were reckless, and slid its edge delicately between the inner spine lining and the block of pages. The fabric lifted. Just enough. A thin folded edge of paper revealed itself. Ellie froze. For a moment, she did not touch it. The room felt charged, as though the shelves themselves were watching. Then, very carefully, she eased the folded paper free. It was narrow, photocopied, creased twice to fit the hollow of the spine. Her hands were steady now, not from calm, but from clarity. She unfolded it. At the top was a parish office stamp, faint but legible. Ashwood Parish Council, received 10th of July, 1999. Below it was a handwritten letter. The writing was looping and deliberate, the sort of script that belonged to someone raised to believe penmanship reflected character. Ellie read. To the Council, I am writing to formally dispute the revised boundary survey submitted by the Ashwood Trust regarding my orchard property. The measurements do not correspond with those recorded in my husband's original deeds. I request an independent review before any transfer is considered. Signed, Margaret Ellis. The date, July 10th, 1999. 4 days before her death. Ellie's breath left her slowly. There was more. At the bottom of the photocopy, in darker ink, newer ink, was a short line written in Thomas Lumley's unmistakable hand. Filed, but never acknowledged. And beneath that, not accident, not murder, but choice. Ellie sat down without meaning to. The air felt thinner. Margaret Ellis had formally disputed the boundary. The parish office had stamped the letter as received, and yet there was no mention of it in the inquest summary. No mention in the parish binder beyond a minimal entry. Someone had chosen not to pursue it. Someone had chosen tidiness over scrutiny, and Lumley had chosen to preserve that proof. Ellie looked at the hollow spine of the book again. There was no other paper hidden there. This was it. This was what the intruder had come for. Not the signed dedication itself, but what it might conceal. Her mind moved quickly now. Richard had asked about the signed copy. Someone had altered the dedication before publication. Threat notes had referenced the orchard, and Lumley had hidden the one piece of documentary proof linking the orchard dispute to official acknowledgement. Not murder, but a paper trail of choice. Ellie rose abruptly and crossed to the door, locking it again, though it was already locked. Then she retrieved her phone. Her fingers hovered over Thorne's name for half a second before she pressed call. He answered on the third ring. "Yes." "I found something," she said. A pause. "What kind of something?" "The kind you told me not to look for." Silence. Then, "Are you alone?" "Yes." "Stay there." The line went dead. Ellie looked down at the photocopy again. Margaret Ellis's handwriting felt almost intimate, the careful loops of someone who believed that if she wrote clearly enough, she would be heard. She had been heard, stamped, filed, and then ignored. Choice. That was what Lumley had meant. Not murder, not melodrama. A decision made in the quiet language of minutes and meetings. A decision that smoothed the village's surface and erased its friction. 25 years later, someone had killed to protect that surface. The bell above the door rang sharply. Ellie startled, then remembered she had locked it. A knock followed, firm, controlled. She crossed to the door and opened it just wide enough for D.I. Thorne to slip inside. He did not remove his coat. "What did you find?" he asked. Ellie led him to the counter without flourish and placed the photocopy before him. Thorne read it once, then again. His face did not change, but something in his posture tightened, sharpened. "Where was this?" he asked. "In the spine of my signed copy." He glanced at the book. "And the other signed copy is missing." "Yes." Thorne exhaled slowly. "This was hidden deliberately," he said. "Yes." "And you are certain there was nothing else inside?" "Yes." He traced the parish stamp with one finger. "Filed," he murmured, "but not acknowledged." "That's what Lumley wrote," Ellie said. Thorne's gaze lifted to hers. "And you understand what this means?" "Yes," she said quietly. "It means," Thorne said, voice measured, "that Lumley had proof the orchard dispute was formally lodged, which contradicts the public narrative that Margaret Ellis died before any serious disagreement." "Yes." "It means someone on the trust knew this letter existed." "Yes." "And it means," Thorne finished, "that if this had become public, the trust's acquisition would be seen not as unfortunate timing, but as opportunistic." Ellie held his gaze. "Choice," she said softly. Thorne studied her for a long moment. "You realize," he said, "that this moves the investigation from speculation to motive." "I know." "And you realize," he continued, "that whoever broke into your shop believed this might be in your possession." "Yes." His jaw tightened. "You should not have opened the spine yourself." Ellie blinked. "I beg your pardon?" "You could have damaged evidence." "I was careful." "That is not the point." She folded her arms. "If I hadn't been careful, you wouldn't have it." A beat of silence stretched between them, not hostile, but electric. Thorne looked at the photocopy again, then at her. "Miss Davenport," he said quietly, "from this moment forward, you are not merely adjacent." Ellie's pulse steadied. "I didn't think I was." He held her gaze. "Good," he said. He slid the photocopy carefully into an evidence sleeve. "I will have this authenticated," he continued. "Parish office logs, ink analysis, paper aging, if it checks out." "It will," Ellie said. He gave her a look that was not quite irritation. "If it checks out," he repeated evenly, "then we have documentary evidence that Lumley possessed material damaging to the trust's reputation." "And someone killed him to keep it buried," Ellie said. Thorne did not contradict her. Instead, he reached for the signed copy and examined the hollow spine. "You said there were 3 signed copies," he said. "Yes?" "One stolen." "Yes." "Which suggests Lumley may have placed similar material in more than one." Ellie's stomach tightened. Meaning, whoever took it might not know whether they retrieved everything, she said. Exactly. A quiet understanding settled between them. The game had shifted. This was no longer about literary feuds or wounded pride. It was about documentary truth. Thorne placed the book back on the counter. You will go home, he said. You will not walk alone, and you will not attempt to uncover anything further without informing me. Ellie opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. Not because she agreed, but because she understood. He moved toward the door, then paused. And Ellie? He said, the name landing differently now, stripped of formality. Lumley chose you for a reason. She felt that settle somewhere deep and uncomfortable. Yes, she said softly. He believed you would notice. Ellie looked down at Margaret Ellis's looping handwriting. Not accident, not murder, but choice. I did, she said. Thorne nodded once and left, the bell chiming sharply in his wake. Ellie stood alone in the quiet shop. Thanks for listening. Join me next time for Chapter 9.